There's been a lot of talk about how you can't trust the polls this election, and yet all anyone seems to be talking about is the polls. So let's dive right in with the rest of them. According to the latest generic ballot polls, Democrats have the edge over Republicans in their push to regain control of the House, up 3 points in the Politico Morning Consult poll, 7 points in the Washington Post ABC News poll, and 13 points in the CNN's SSRS poll. But as the New York Times put it best, if you're sure you know what's going to happen on Tuesday, you're wrong. For many, it all comes down to messaging, and while recent polls have found health care, the economy, and immigration are voters' top concerns, the president admits he has a tough time sticking to the first two.
They all say, speak about the economy, speak about the economy. Well, we have the greatest economy in the history of our country. But sometimes it's not as exciting to talk about the economy, right?
Maybe so, but there's another guy who's more than happy to weigh in on the issue.
When you hear these Republicans bragging about, look how good the economy is, where do you think that started?
And both sides are accusing the other of dirty tricks along the way.
Let's call it what it is. It's a lie. They're lying to you.
Lie after lie, broken promise after broken promise. That's what he did. Unlike President Obama, we live by a different motto. It's called promises made, promises kept.
Believe it or not, neither of those two guys are running for anything. But in the end, it all comes down to that old Obama classic he's keeping alive this campaign season.
Go boo! Vote!
Joining me, hopefully with minimal booing, are Jennifer Becerra, senior fellow, I don't know about that, with the Independent Women's Forum. Good to see you. Jesse Mermel, former communications director for Governor Deval Patrick. Hey, Jesse, good to see you. So it was James Carville, right? It's the economy, stupid. 250,000 jobs last month, 3.7% unemployment rate. I think the lowest in somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 years. Yet the president's talking about criminals invading the country. Did he make the right choice?
Politically, probably.
Why do you say that?
Because immigration is the issue that he won on. And it's an issue that drives people to the polls, and it's an issue that he's been successful with.
I'm not asking you whether you like it, but was it the right choice for Trump in this campaign?
We'll find out tomorrow night. I'm with the New York Times. Any of us who think we know anything, you know, I was old enough to remember to 2016. We don't know anything.
You're old enough.
I'm old enough. Listen, I don't think Donald Trump ran on immigration. I think he ran on fear, and particularly fear of people who are other, and that is what he has more than doubled down on, especially the past few weeks.
Too, isn't it?
Oh, very much so.
It is fear of other. I mean, that is what the immigration campaign
is.
Right?
There's a touch of xenophobia to it. Yes, there is.
Just a touch, a little sprinkle of it.
But in places like Arizona and, you know, other border states, it may play.
You know,
that's the gamble he's taking.
Last night, the chyron at the bottom of the screen was Republicans run on immigration, Democrats run on health care. I don't know if I've been missing something. They're running on not being Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the message. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but that is the Democratic message.
I think that's one of the messages.
Right?
I see three Democratic messages, particularly in this closing week or so. One is we're not Trump / we need a backstop against the man. Number two is health care. It's been sort of a late surge of a message, but really in the past week or so, particularly in some key states like Nevada, you've seen health care become a big, big message. And the third piece is that the character of this country matters. You've seen Biden say that. You've seen Obama say that. You've actually seen my old boss, Deval Patrick, say that on the stump in the past few weeks. People are starting to talk about the character of this country, and that what happens tomorrow night is important as a message about that.
Here's where I don't think that works. In the end, all politics is local, and when people go in, you know, to the ballot booth, whether it's to vote for Charlie Baker or, you know, to vote for Martha McSally, in Arizona, they know they're not voting for Donald Trump. They're voting for that individual. And so the character of that individual may be on the ballot, but the character of Martha McSally, for example, or Charlie Baker is excellent.
You don't think it trickles down? I mean,
I don't.
Here, you know,
when you literally have candidates filming ads where they read books to their kids about Donald Trump and building the wall, how can you separate the two? They are putting big bear hug arms around Donald Trump.
So the trick for Republicans is to keep pro-Trump Republicans and get them to the polls while also getting independents, moderates, and never-Trump Republicans to support them.
And the flip
in the
side
end,
is
never-Trump Republicans and people who aren't big supporters of the president, like myself, will make their decision on Election Day based on the character and the voting record of the people on the ballot, not Donald Trump.
So wait a
but
second.
the flip side there is that everything that Donald Trump and his cohorts do to mobilize their base, right, the Trump base we all like to talk about, also turns out the Democratic base, because it is such a turnoff. It's such a motivator for our folks to turn out. You talked earlier about Donald Trump gambling. This is also his gamble. Whether or not it will work to motivate Republicans, who knows? Will it work to motivate Democrats? Remains
well,
to be
I
seen.
think the answer will be state specific. It will work in some places and it will not work in others.
I want to talk about motivating the base, though, because it seems that when Trump does go out in the world, he does motivate his base, but there's another guy who hasn't spoken that much. President 44, the one before him. Here he is Friday night.
They promised to take on corruption. Instead, they have racked up enough indictments to field a football team. I didn't have anybody in my administration get indicted. I just thought that's how you're supposed to do things.
Is he making a difference? I mean, a lot of Democrats said, where has he been? Not only is he back on the stage, but he's going directly at Donald Trump, which he wasn't doing in some of his earlier pronouncements.
Yeah, I think he is making a difference. The thing that is interesting to me is that for younger millennials, right, folks who might be voting in their first or second election, they don't feel a connection to Barack Obama the same way voters in their 30s or late 20s might. It's the person over his shoulder, Andrew Gillum or Stacey Abrams in Georgia, candidates like that who are really motivating younger Democrats to turn out. So I'm interested to see what the combination of the two will do for, say, voters under 40, getting them to turn out tomorrow.
And every poll, whether it's Tufts, IOP, or Institute of Politics at Harvard, or an analysis of early voting across the country, shows that those voters, those young people, are voting in record numbers, which I assume is nothing but bad news for the Republican Party.
I don't know about that. I mean, I laughed the other day because one of my daughters put something on Facebook. You know, there's a frame you can put around your picture that says, I pledge to vote. And so she put it up there, and all of her liberal friends and all of the liberal relatives said, great, Rosie, glad you're going to the polls. And I kept thinking, yeah, she's voting a straight Republican ballot. Are you really that
Wait, that's
psyched?
what she tells you, Jennifer. We
Oh.
shall
I
see.
know my daughter.
So the conventional wisdom is the Democrats take the House. It's a question about how much.
Right.
Again, keeping in mind what the New York Times said. And the Republicans probably increase their majority in the Senate. By the way, here's a list of at least conventional wisdom on the seats most likely to flip. 5 of them are Democratic. Only one is GOP, and that's virtually a lock. Can we start with the House for a minute? What does it mean if your party takes control of the House of Representatives? How does that change anything?
It's exactly what I said earlier. It's a backstop. It is at least one check on Donald Trump, and it is exactly what everyone I know in my party is clinging to for tomorrow night. The idea that we might take the Senate is, I think, a nice dream that a lot of people have, but we are all hanging our hopes tomorrow night on the House because we want at least that one check.
Look, I have to say, as a true conservative, I actually really like divided government. I'm Madisonian in this way. The less they get done, the better. The fewer laws they pass, the better. And I'm okay with one.
Well, they can't do far fewer than they've done in the last 2 years.
The fewer, the better. I'd like to repeal some, but no. But the reality is, divided government is baked in the cake when it comes to our Constitution. And I think, personally, I'm a fan of divided government. With respect to the Democrats and the House of Representatives, they've made a lot of noise about impeachment over the years, and I think you'll see they're not going to do it.
You don't think even they're going to look into impeachment of Kavanaugh? Because I have to say, when I speak to Democrats who were talking about the House,
it's a fundraising point.
Do you think it's just a talking
point? They're not going to do it.
I think.
I mean, the guy who's going to be chair of the Judiciary Committee, if it turns out the Democrats take over, said we're going to hold hearings about whether or not Justice Kavanaugh committed perjury in the hearings.
I think the hearings will actually happen. Whether or not it goes from there remains to be seen.
We only have a minute left. It seems to me that while you say this backstop thing in the House, and you may be right, if the Republicans maintain control of the Senate, in fact, if they enlarge it, Donald Trump has already appointed more judges to the federal system than any president in modern history in his first 2 years. That's the nightmare for the Democratic Party, because those are long-term
That has been the nightmare
appointments.
for the past 2 years, and there's no question that that's the thing that will leave a pit in our stomachs if things go the way everyone expects in the Senate tomorrow and the Democrats don't take it back.
The reality is it shouldn't be a nightmare, because Republican judges are constitutionalist judges, and they make decisions based on the Constitution, not based on party affiliation.
I would say
and
for
that's
immigrants,
good for
anyone who cares
everybody.
about voting rights, anyone who cares
I
about women's
disagree.
rights and the right to choose, absolutely has a pit in their
Right,
stomach.
that's the view of somebody who wants the courts to be used to enact political change.
That's a view of someone who believes that government has an opportunity and a role in protecting people's rights and expanding opportunity for people.
Those conservative judges aren't activists too? Just
most of them are not. I mean, you'd have to go judge by judge, and sometimes they all make mistakes, right? They're human. But for the most part, a conservative judicial philosophy is a restrained philosophy.
I'm going to argue that those conservative judges that stripped the Voting Rights Act were a little bit activist.
We got to go. Jennifer, nice to see you.
See you.
Jesse, you as well.
Thanks, Jim.
Be well. See you both soon.